Hey guys, this is Chaffee from Task Force 70 Foundation. We're here this week with John Meyer. John is a longtime cop, works in a TF70 style agency, smaller agency, and he's got a lot of good thoughts. We've chatted back and forth for quite a while about different topics having to do with patrol stuff and some of the misdirection that patrol has been under for quite a while. Most of that is not any particular person's fault. It's just a matter of the degradation of a culture that is natural with civilizational progression. We're going to talk about some ways that we can arrest that we can kind of stop that slide and get back to what we know constitutionally our jobs are. And I'm also super interested to talk to John about um, the things that we can be doing at the individual level to help build that culture, because that's how it's done. It's not all of us getting together and having a meeting and deciding how we're going to do things. It's a bunch of individuals at all size agencies deciding that they are going to do things correctly. That's what drives culture. So without any further uh, bloviation from me, I'm going to bring John on. John, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. If you don't mind, introduce yourself as much or as little as you feel is appropriate for the audience, and we will get moving.
Uh, John Meyer. I did about 4 years in the Army during the end of the GWOC, so it's not that relevant of experience. But I've been a cop on 7 years now. Did about 4.5 years, large department in my state, and now I'm in a smaller 78 department now.
Yeah, that's awesome. You also have some experience training your own guys, right? Uh,
Relatively new into it yet.
yeah. How long have you been teaching now?
No, probably about 2 years, roughly, but
Hmm. That's
you know,
good.
it's hurdles.
One of the things that drew my attention to you on social media was you seem to very rapidly uh, seem to get the point that there's a difference between instruction and teaching. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, you've been on my list of guys that I really wanted to talk to for a while, but you had a post, and I hate chasing social media. That's not really what we do, but you had a very relevant post last week that that really nailed uh, a sore spot for me, and has been in my mind for several years anyway. And Your post pretty well nailed it. I don't remember exactly what it is. We're not going to like post it up. We're not that kind of show. But you basically posted for cops individually to stop um, posting, thinking, acting like goons, like the societal modern understanding of the word of the savage, the operator, the goon, that kind of thing, because that's not what police officers are. The word officer is in it for a reason, and your post really nailed it for me. It's why I wanted to bring you on so soon, as while it was fresh in both of our minds. Do you mind talking a little bit about the I know it probably wasn't a super, like, you didn't write a thesis on it and then boil it down into a single line, but can you talk about what led you to the same level of frustration that a lot of us have on that count?
Well, you see it on social media, especially like I get it. It's a lot of them like memes and
Hmm.
like police meme pages, and then like you'll see it with like a lot of the influencers, and like it's cool and it's got the connotation, but like you look at like the history of like goons, like it's all negative stuff, especially in law enforcement. It's like
Hmm.
cops getting arrested for doing corrupt and criminal stuff. That's a negative connotation, especially when you look at it like the public, their view. It's like, oh, there's enough goons, jump out, boys, and stuff like that. I don't think law enforcement should be calling themselves that. It's not. It's kind of like the akin to the punishment schools and stuff like that. It's like exact opposite of what we want to portray.
Exactly, and we be the exact opposite of what we want to be. We want to be constitutional officers. We swear our oath to the Constitution, not to the local mayor or the state government. We swear an oath um, to the ideals and the concept of the Constitution itself. And I agree with you absolutely that the more we think about ourselves as operators or goons or savages or jump out boys, the more we tend to behave that way. That's kind of a subconscious leading ourselves type of situation. I think I was super happy with you posting that because it's kind of like the guy who says who farted in a church meeting, right? Like somebody needs to say it. Um, and it's been on my mind for a while. I was super happy that you said something. So before you posted that, I was thinking about it as the operatorization of law enforcement, um, which is in some ways it can be a positive thing, getting high levels of skill from people who've done it in a different circumstance, in a different constitutional framework from the military. But in order for us to get, or do you agree, or do you think that it's smarter for us to understand kind of the core competencies of what our job is before we go chasing hits and door breaches and CQB ninja and stuff like that? How important is it to you that we be a good understanding or have a good understanding of our actual duty before we do things like that?
It's paramount. Like I was taught through my FPOs and how the culture when I was brought up is be a cop. Learn how to be a cop first. Well, even like like two of my FPOs are 20-something year guys working in that large city where so there's a ton of experience. And that's it. They told me I was advised, don't do anything until you at least got 5 years on. Get that experience, learn how to be a cop. And even at when I reached 5 years, I'm still figuring out, still navigating those waters. I'm still doing it now. And some people will start getting titles really, really young and they don't figure out how to be a cop. And I think it's counterproductive.
Mm-hmm. I think that social media encourages the worst in people generally, and cops are not immune to that. So, um, everybody, every male wants to be a badass. Like I get it, I understand, but we have larger responsibilities. So, I was really happy that you kind of pulled some folks by the short hairs with that. I got a lot of texts about that post before I saw it, with people of my generation who were just ecstatic that someone of your generation posted that. So so we appreciate that very much. Um, can we talk about um, how important? I think we would all agree that it's very important that from very early in their career that a law enforcement officer have a good understanding of the underlying constitutional layer, um, which drives use of force and the individual skills and techniques necessary to be able to do that well. I think everybody agrees with that. I think one of the goon culture challenges is that some folks specialize or focus too much on the um, marksmanship and tactics piece of it a little too soon. Like it's, would you agree with that? Or we obviously want them training on it from their first day, but it shouldn't be their sole focus. I think from the beginning, because if they suck at a DUI investigation, the fact that they're a ninja at tactics doesn't help their community at all, right?
Yeah. Just for example, like a lot of departments have changed their pursuit policy, and it upset a lot of cops. And I get it. We want to chase the bad guy, but again, that's the nature of quality intrusion versus the other interest. A lot of those that's the prime example of why we're doing. Oh, all we have is an infraction at this point in a lot of cases. So we look at the factors of, oh, it's during school pickup or drop off hours, heavy traffic, rush hour. We're going to chase this guy because almost every pursuit I've been in, usually almost all of them end up in crashes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot of intrusion versus the low interest making the seizure. I think, yes, cops want to get the bad guy, but that upsets people. So I think that's the point of the decision making versus the skills. We need to have the skills because when opposition happens, it's the highest consequence of failure is opposition. So whether it be force, physical war, shooting. So we need to have the both, the decision, the understanding of where the constitutional part is
Mm-hmm.
the citizens, the public, what are our actions going to do versus that, if that makes sense.
It does, absolutely. What I see a lot, I've obviously being a leader and a trainer, I've been reviewing body cams since before they were body cams, since they were just dashboard cams.
You'll beat on
Right. So I think the primary driver, the commonality of driver of bad police decisions almost always revolves around emotion on the part of the officer. I've found through my training career that the better, more detailed training an officer gets, the more reps they get, the calmer they are because they're not overwhelming their cerebral cortex with details about skills. Is part of the reason that skill training is so important.
liquid brain versus the cool, calm, collected.
Yes,
All the time.
exactly. And there are some people who it's fine that they're cops, but they do tend to let their emotions drive action, just personality wise, regardless of the amount of education they receive. So that's a leadership problem that can be managed, but it has to be recognized for what it is by leaders, especially at the sergeant level. Um, but the pursuit thing is it seems so simple to me, constitutionally, what the appropriate action is, but it looks so different in every case, and every jurisdiction. And I think one of the reasons that pursuits have become such a problem, not only the public view of pursuits, but also the poor management of them, over time is a symptom of the lack of focus on the Constitution and the Declaration as the wellspring of all actions that we take, if that makes sense. The over reliance on case law as opposed to constitutional law. The Wilsonian concept of labeling it constitutional law when it's just court precedents. It's not actually law. Now, in the vast majority of cases that become case law, the court is trying to give us a clear, non-specific judgment tool, if that makes sense. Yeah, they're trying to give that to us. And we're taking it, especially the more that management and leadership capabilities degrade over time, that more and more becomes a always and never proposition instead of what it was intended to be, I think.
Whether we can or whether we should.
Right, right, exactly. So um, I'm really glad that this concept of becoming highly competent before you can be excellent, is kind of where I'm trying to go with that whole thing. We want these young officers to be excellent, but in order to grind out some excellence, they first have to be competent. And some of them are trying to jump that train a little fast, if that makes sense. It's leading us to some bad outcomes, especially when combined with emotional decision making. So, based on that understanding that you and I have about the necessity of competence first, um, we have seen over the last probably 50 years the institutionalization of law enforcement. The police were federalized a long time ago through funding and standards. The Some of the members of the public are worried about military style tactics, and they think that is the federalization of police. Uh, what uniform we wear and what equipment we use and what weapon systems we carry and all that is not militarization. And that's my opinion.
Yeah, I hate the word militarization because people understood the history of law enforcement. We've borrowed one, military's driven the private sector for a long time on tech advancement and how stuff works and standardization. That's why a lot of cars will have the same similar parts.
Mm-hmm.
The military did the same stuff because they need to make it easier to repair. But then you look at like Robert Peel when it was the London Metropolitan Police, or was it London Metropolitan or Scott?
Yes.
Whatever.
Yes.
Where they got professional uniforms was the military. They want him to look professional and have the respect of the military. That's where it came from. And ever since then, we've been borrowing this stuff. All that is tech. So people like it. Just a lost knowledge and misunderstanding.
It is very much so. And it's like why we're called police officers. We were called constables until Norman Schwarzkopf's father founded the Pennsylvania State Police. And the police have always been an inherent paramilitary function in order to maintain order. We have always been that. That is not new. What is new is the people whose hearts are in the right place, who want to restore a constitutional republic as opposed to an institutionalized democracy. They fear a militarized police because they don't understand what the police actually are. The police exist because of in the preamble of the Constitution, and Federalist 17 explains it pretty clearly, that the police exist to ensure domestic tranquility, to make the rights of the individual possible through the creation of order. That's why the police exist. We are called police officers because when Schwarzkopf founded the state police in Pennsylvania, Wilson had not been the president yet. So we had a fundamental correct understanding of constitutional federalized government, that order is necessary in order for the Constitution to be able to protect the Declaration of Independence at all. And officers were necessary because we wanted to avoid, when we were kind of reorganizing law enforcement as a function, we were trying to avoid a Indian-style law enforcement or Shanghai-style law enforcement where there are colonial officers and local troops, which is how policing was done. Peel started that process in London. It's why they were officers as well. The challenge is a lot of institutions since the mid-60s have begun not calling them, but treating individual localized police officers as privates instead of, because they were trying to take away some of the judgment that those local officers had the authority to execute. The best judgments are made at the lowest levels with the proper level of competence and education. And we have intentionally attempted to institutionalize law enforcement to make it a non-articleized power. So right now there are constitutionally there are three forms of power which are counterbalanced against each other: the legislature, the executive, and the judicial. Since Wilson, Teddy Roosevelt started the problem, but Wilson really created it, is creating a fourth branch of government through the institution. And law enforcement has been led down that path for so long that it's become a challenge to teach officers that excuse me, excuse me, that if your boss tells you to do something, it's inherently right. Or as found during the jab era, when officers are doing things that are clearly unconstitutional, but they're doing them anyway because they were told to do it. That is a cultural problem, and the only way to break that cycle is to raise the individual officer's competence level as high as possible. Uh, Not only tactically and technically, but also constitutionally and the laws of their state constitution and their local laws. So I didn't mean to go off on a rant there, John. I apologize, but at an agency your size, is there any, whether explicit or implicit, conversation along those lines right now, or is everybody just kind of on autopilot um, with the current state of affairs since the mid 60s?
I think probably there's people on that line individually, but I think just like every other institution of bureaucracy, I think it's generally autopilot. Now,
Right.
I'm glad there's a lot of, especially in our admin in my department, they're wanting change stuff, which I really like. It's kind of opposite with my previous department. The admin, they're creating a bad culture, that in the city culture.
Sure. The there comes a tipping point in every bureaucracy once it has more than about 120 people that its purpose shifts from serving whatever purpose it was founded to conduct into it naturally transitions into growing and protecting itself. Any organization of over about 150 people will turn into a bureaucracy. That's just normal human nature. It's very positive that there are agencies your size that the executives understand. It sounds like they understand what their purpose as an executive is to drive that culture and provide the resourcing and the guidance necessary for people at your level to make it work, if that makes sense, to teach the guys. So that's very positive, and fortunately it's becoming more and more common. I've had contact with a lot of agencies for a lot of years. I've talked to multiple agencies a week for over 20 years in the training lane, and I too am seeing that shift. Where I'm not seeing it is in the very large agencies in blue states, which are completely subordinated to their political leadership, and at very small agencies where the kind of the task force 70 sweet spot, the 6 to 12 officer sized agencies, some of those guys don't get, like, the executive level hasn't had the education required to even see the problem. Um, they just follow the state mandate. Everybody gets their checkbox, shoots their 50 rounds a year, and then don't wake them up at night. You know what I mean? And that kind of problem is only addressed from below, in my experience. So, do you do you see ways that street officers can be pushing their leadership in a positive way? Like, um, are there some areas of education that they can encourage others to do, or things that they can be doing themselves to maximize their capability as an individual, so that they become an example or a mentor to the teammates around them.
It's which is one of the things I like about my department is they like to pay for training
Mm-hmm.
and guide the training, and I think that's very positive. Getting guys to try when they go to the training to spread the information, to share the knowledge, and that kind of like helps foster that because well down goes back up.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to influence that is you went this, let's share that with everybody else, and then I think that's something I've been trying to do is give people stuff. Like I don't like to gatekeep, but it's hard because I think there's like cultural thing at the low level is that I think it's partly a lot of people are stat driven.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to putting in the work to getting the knowledge and developing that competency, some people are apprehensive about that. I think there's a whole other reason why that is. Like
There it is.
Like the previous department and this department, like you hear the word roll call and it's like, oh no, I gotta run from it. Like people mind every which way to get out, go in the roll call.
Right.
And I think that's a problem
Mm-hmm.
because that's roll calls where you can do things like practice whether you want to drill something. You can do basic expand table or tabletop stuff like play the what ifs, or you could talk about case law stuff that's going on currently because there's always case law, whether it be from districts or outside of your area that could influence yours. Talk about your state statutes and like element of it. What would you do? Just there's a lot of stuff, and that's what creates kind of like the teamwork culture. And people start developing their stuff. You know, so changing that to get people to stop being kind of like it's the get away from these type of deals. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a natural human tendency for guys who are cops because the garbage company wasn't hiring that week. That there will always be those guys, or the fire department didn't hire them, so they came to the PD. But on the whole, I think you guys are moving the right direction because of your attitude and the others in your department who have that attitude, that the purpose of instructor certifications is not to credential your own resume, which I think is a giant cultural issue, another one that people won't talk about, is that there are a good majority of people who become instructors in something and get credentialed in that, or become SWAT guys, or become a detective because they want that on their resume so that they can promote. And especially on the instructor side, that is especially uh, harmful to departments when guys either get sent or go on their own to become a instructor in something and then never do it when they come back. They just got the check mark on their resume. Now they're a certified whatever it is, a ninja basket weaving instructor, and that helps their resume, but they never do the whole point of sending them to the class, which is get everybody up to the same level of competency as you are. And that's a difficult problem in the modern demographic, especially in small law enforcement agencies. They're struggling just to hire someone, and selecting for at least a percentage of guys who are willing to live up to that is getting more and more difficult. So it's one of the reasons for the foundation is to encourage that in guys, to want them to want to be mentors to others. And whether you have a instructor certification, is, I don't care either way. Can you teach someone else how to do something at the individual level or the group level? I think that's the important part. Um, I I really like that you are consciously pushing that concept within your agency that, like, you have stuff to teach and you're trying to teach it to them. And if you need an instructor certification in order to make it easier for the executives to get it certified, then great. Like, they'll send you and do it. That seems like a healthy symbiosis for that type of culture, as opposed to sending guys because the state says we have to have a child sex abuse investigator. So we're going to send somebody to become an instructor who either A, didn't want to go, or B, only wanted to go so that they had that on their resume, and then they never teach it. But the department can tell the state that we have an instructor. You know what I mean? Like, that's a corrosive, um, that's a corrosive environment for making the community better, which is kind of the whole point of what we're supposed to be doing.
And we, the the agency, the entity, the institution should foster people to find their niche and stuff, what they like to do, because people that like to do it are going to be people that are be good at it, and they should then become the people who teach it. And that's where I told some of our young guys, like, find your niche, master that, get the big picture, be good at everything, or competent in everything, but find your niche in that, because one, it's a it's a career. You got to spend 20, 30 years doing.
Mm-hmm.
You got to find something that's going to make you last that whole thing. So whether it be you want to be the accident investigator, you want to be the detective in whatever specialty, you want to be firearms, Evo, defensive tactics, DUIs, find that, master that, so that way you can foster that same thing. Because these young guys don't know what they want to be yet.
Mm-hmm.
And you can end up influencing them, and they can end up finding out that that's what they want to do, and then they kind of take your position. It's kind of like parenting, make them better than you. Right. Yep. And so when instructors go and do that stuff, well, I want the title, and they don't ever instruct and don't ever spend as much time as they can trying to put out information, that bothers me, because, like, I want to do that stuff, and I want to do all the time. It's,
Right.
And when instructors don't do that, I feel it kind of creates an environment where people don't want to be doing training and stuff. So it's kind of like an uphill battle.
Mm-hmm.
I like to do these things. I like to instruct these things. One, it helps me get better at it, and it's like maintenance to myself, because all that stuff is perishable. So if you don't, you're going to lose those skills and abilities. So when instructors don't do it, it just bothers me, because I want to do it all the time. I would instruct every day if I could.
Right. Well, and I think that that's a good indicator for leaders if they send somebody to a school, to a instructor credentialing or course, and they don't come back and immediately are excited about teaching it. They probably shouldn't send them to any other instructor schools, because that guy's not a teacher. Like, why is he doing it? He's doing it to get the credential. So, and that's where a lot of these credentialing programs come from, is wanting to give guys a piece of paper for their resume, instead of we're trying to replicate the next generation. Like, it takes 5 or 6 years to get good at all of the competencies required to be a good cop. And then you should immediately be looking for, once you're pretty switched on with the job in general, of all those calls, which one's interested you the most? That's your specialty. And then the only way the culture doesn't degrade is that you immediately start educating yourself and becoming good at teaching others to do it, because you're going to retire someday. And we've been stuck in luckily most of them are gone, but we spent a good 25 years of the executive level in law enforcement as a trade being boomers, who very little of what they learned over their career from the generation before them got passed on. Um, and there's a million reasons for it, but one of the primary ones is, well, I'm the chief firearms guy. I don't want to replace myself. I want to maximize myself. And we should always, as trainers and mentors, we should always be trying to generate the next, to to give the people who come after us a higher starting point than we had. Like they have a stronger core competency than we did when we came in. And then they can drive things further. Where as how things are generally, not every department, but generally now departments are reinventing the wheel every 8 to 10 years with like their SWAT program or their detective division or their um, I don't know, robbery division or their SWAT team just collapses because, the two or three key people retire and nobody knows how to do it anymore. Instead of as soon as you know how to do it, start teaching somebody else. That kind of concept. So it's very oh, go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
I don't want to cut you off. I think that's where we lose knowledge. Is when we don't have that foundation in sharing knowledge and transferring education, we will lose a lot of knowledge. Like just like an example, like shotguns. I mean, you saw the post the other day, but departments are teaching the shotguns, and there's like a lot of knowledge there. What that role of the shotgun is in doing it everywhere. They look at the Hollywood shootout, and I'm like, that's an outlier, and that had the shotguns were affected that because of certain factors that were specific to that body armor and all this stuff. And that brought about more common of the rifle, which we needed. It fixed the problem, but it created another problem.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're losing the knowledge of the shotgun. And so we don't give everybody all the knowledge we have so they can take it, carry it on. I think that creates its own paradigm of a problem that's snowballs and escalates.
Right. Exactly. The shotgun is a particularly annoying one because it's not either or. The every officer needs both, the rifle and the shotgun. The same thing has occurred in tactics since Columbine. Active shooter training has turned into a grift for a lot of folks that we're teaching specific tactics for a unlikely problem instead of how about we just teach CQB that can be varied in velocity depending on the call type and just teach one way to do it because it has to be able to be done in a school, but it also has to be able to be done in the front yard of a trailer or around a car. Like if we're teaching them different things for different circumstances, there's no way they can retain all of it. Especially, I mean, my specialty is CQB stuff. And I've been specializing in that for 27, 28 years. And I got to work on it a couple times a week. And I've been doing it a long time. Um, like it, and if we're giving them 2 days of active shooter training once a year, that capability doesn't exist.
Yeah. And that bothers me too, because you're running them through scenarios. And scenarios are to evaluate skills, not teach them skills. So if you're not giving them a solid foundation training, they're going to have the skill to do it. I don't understand it. And it's like Paul Halbach in his book, Leadership Training a Fight. Simplify your tactics as much as possible and have the overlay of all these different types of things. Because when you try to do one thing for a vehicle, one thing for a room, one thing for in the open, it's going to be harder to master those skills. You get good at the things by doing the basics. So the more simplified it is, the better you will be at it. And then jump along. It boggles my mind.
Yep. He was a gigantic influence on me, not directly. I've only met him a couple times. I think I took a class with him years ago, but his book came out while I was in grad school trying to articulate that exact concept. My whole graduate program was built around how do I simplify um, what are called tactics but aren't really tactics, they're procedures. trying to simplify those down to the point where they can be the response can be recognized quickly and then adjusted based on the circumstance, right? He had a giant influence on my articulation of that concept with that book. And that book, unfortunately, has kind of fallen off for some reason. The same uh, challenge that we face with the Fairbairn lessons that he developed in Shanghai that are still applicable today.
That's
Uh,
the first SWAT in that guy, right? That's what I'm
mhm.
talking about.
Yeah.
One of my books on my reading list.
So there's a what I actually recommend for cops. There is and I'll give to Matt, our drunk editor. I'll give him a photo of the front of the book. There was a Russian um, war college professor during the Cold War who studied Fairbairn for his entire career. And he did a book in Russian that was so he primarily focused on the psychology of the use of force, was this professor's specialty. How to maximize performance um, given the training availability and the psychological makeup of the subject of us. And it there's a college professor at Chico State in Butte County where I used to work. Um, he he has finally translated that book, and we'll post up a picture of it. I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact title or the author, and it's in the other room. We were finally able to get it translated into English, and it is a far better understanding of Fairbairn's philosophy and methodology of teaching than his original books were. And
Remind me. Make me think of Bar Freeborn's book Beyond Buddha.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. And Varg very similarly did a great application of psychology to the physical problem. Varg did a phenomenal job on exactly the same thing. I'm so excited that this book is finally in English. It's pretty thick. I mean, it's a psychology book, but I think it's critically important for guys who teach to um, really study this book. And again, we'll flash up a picture of the cover so people can find it. It's on Amazon. And I seriously apologize. I didn't prepare enough. I'm almost done with the book, but it's taken me quite a while to plow through it. It's a college textbook, really. It's just been translated into English. Anyhow, I didn't mean to go so far afield there, John. I apologize, but having having instructors understand the difference between mentorship, instruction, and teaching. And they have to become good mentors first. And then they have to get educated. And cops don't like having to get educated, like academically, but it is required to be able to not be a parrot. Like standing on the range parroting commands isn't teaching. Like you have to have a deep understanding of the physical and the neurological and physical interactions and how people learn based on who they are individually and how they learn. There is no one size fits all for teaching. That's what those two pieces, being able to be a mentor, which requires leadership, and being a academically educated instructor, are required to be combined to become an effective teacher. And we need those teachers in order for these skill sets to die out or not die out. For the modern, the one of the many eye twitches that I get watching television is watching cops walk up to a back of a car and just touching the back of the trunk. Drives me crazy. They don't know where it comes from. The point of that is not to put your fingerprints on the car. The point where that comes from is the 1960s. I know you know this, John, but just for the audience, where this comes from is you're supposed to push the trunk down and lock it in case somebody is hiding in it to ambush you. And I hear police commentators talking about, well, they're doing that to put their fingerprints on the car in case they're murdered. That's not where that comes from. What leads to wide scale misconceptions of why we do things at every level, that's a very minor one, but at every level of law enforcement, especially, it's a trade. It's not a it's not a academic pursuit. So in order for a trade to grow and succeed, the cathedrals weren't built in one generation, and that was only possible because masons would teach, they would learn how to do it up to the maximum capability of the masonry profession until they were about 30 years old, and they were responsible from the time they were 30 until they died in growing the capability of that profession. And that's why it's a trade and not an academic pursuit. And law enforcement is exactly the same. And we have allowed ourselves to be lulled into an academic mindset at the executive level instead of understanding that executives are leading tradesmen. And in order for that to work, the tradesmen, we have to pull our weight doing exactly what you're doing, John, where you're developing your own capability and to a high level so that you can educate other people. And while simultaneous to you educating, you're also continuing to push the ball forward to grow the concepts and grow the teaching capability. So I I'm super passionate about it because it drives me crazy that guys are just way too comfortable with getting an instructor certificate and never teaching it.
Yeah, it's I don't understand it. It'd be like to me. I look at it as like if say your kid had to wait surgery. Would you want your surgeon? Do you want the surgeon that's up to date on everything? That's constantly correcting their skills of surgeon, all going on to all the what do they call them? Where they
The conferences.
conferences where they getting with people from all around the world and this surgeon figured this thing out, or the one that's using that hasn't adapted their skills and using out like 1900 tools and stuff. Like which one do you need? And
Right.
frustrates me.
Yep. We don't have anybody pushing us to do this because it's common in a bureaucracy for everything to be somebody else's problem. And the difference is in a trade, the any lack of ability is on us. Nobody's coming to save us. There's a law enforcement culture. It's up to us. Like if a cop is watching this, it's up to them. Like I can't and you can't, and there's so much good training available, but we don't want, especially the private trainers, don't want people that don't want to be there. And if you're not willing to do what's necessary to develop your own capability, understanding that you are responsible for that, then you're never going to even touch that level of training. And just understanding that there's no one coming to save us. It's up to us. And at the individual officer level, and every officer is responsible for their calls and for their department, but also for the culture that they're going to pass on. And a lot of guys, we've allowed our culture to become so lax in the law enforcement world that guys are just trying to get through the shift and not come to roll call like you like or skip training days because their kids have dentist appointments that they scheduled on the training day on purpose so that they didn't have to go to training. So it's it's a it's not a self-correcting problem. It takes conscious effort on all of our parts as individuals to continue to push the ball forward. Otherwise, the cathedral will never get built. It took 600 years to build a cathedral, and it was only possible because every generation improved their craft incrementally. And if you're not willing to develop, not you, John, but instructors are not willing to work hard to educate themselves, find an area that they think needs improvement, and do the work necessary to improve it, it's going to collapse. We're just going to be a federalized group of privates, not police officers or deputy sheriffs.
We're just going to keep making the same mistakes. And that's why I love body cam, because you can see it over again. The trends. We do anything, and then that's why I hate when guys are like, "Oh, it's Monday morning quarterback," and looking at you can't know. It's like, is this showing what we're doing is not working? So we need to change. Like, I've made mistakes. That's why I like trying to change it, because I've seen other people make mistakes, especially the department where I worked before. It was so busy, so much stuff going on. I've also made them too. Like my classmate, one particular stuff. It's like, think about it afterwards. Like, oh, this could have went so different. He kicked up a pursuit, and it was a black Durango, and when I was had like 4 dudes in it, but they ended up going in an alley, and they all just getting out of the car, and we all chased them like the rabbit. And we caught them, but coming back to the car was loaded with AR and regular pistols. And like, if these guys weren't hopped out and start shooting us because we're chasing them, like, it would have been a bad day for us. Just little stuff like that. You see it constantly over and over again. In the videos, we're making tactical errors that could be fixed with training, spreading knowledge, and looking at the videos. Like, hey, it doesn't work. Let's not do that. So,
but like you said, it takes conscious study to do that. We have to be looking for those things. If the wrong thing is done successfully twice, that becomes the norm. As opposed to if you see something messed up and how your department or your team is doing something, fix it. Survival for domestic law enforcement is not a sign of success. Like,
yeah, it's back. I'd use it a lot. Is that fortuitous outcomes reinforce bad tactics?
That's exactly correct.
All the time. When I first heard it on a PMS podcast, like, I like that. I'm gonna use it.
Yep. And that's a serious problem in our world. So, John, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you, man. I really appreciate you saying what you think on social media. I know that, like, we're probably the last 2 people on Facebook, but I know that, like, everything's moved to the Insta, Snap, Gram, whatever it is. But you're posting some great stuff, and the reason I appreciate it so much isn't the fact that you posted it, is that somebody of your generation is thinking about it. That's so critically important. So we really, really appreciate you taking the time on a Sunday to come in and talk about it, John.
Thank you for having me. It's good to get the info out there, because sometimes we get our egos involved, and it becomes to attacking each other versus attacking the argument. And
Exactly.
trying to influence guys to master the stuff, because there's a lot of guys out there from all the stuff like proactive and this stuff. They're very good at that stuff, but then when it comes to the other stuff, like, you gotta get those skills, because if that guy you're stopping decides to want to fight, what are you gonna do?
Right.
You gotta have the skills to meet the opposite. Or the guy backing me up is the guy who doesn't like to go to the range, doesn't like to go to the gym, doesn't like to work on his combatives. It's not the guy I want back me up. Trying to influence those guys, because everybody's in this law enforcement. They're all, at least most ones I've come across, to, is because they're trying to do the right thing, trying to. It's just help people to get better. And I'm trying to get better. I'm not like the greatest walk. I'm not Gary. None of that stuff. That's why I wanted the instructor. One, I recognized stuff needed to change, and I want to get better myself, and help encourage people to get better themselves. Because, one, we all, the constitutional aspect is consent of the government, how the rule of law works versus the rule of law versus the law of rule.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of liberty. People get liberty and freedom. They're not the same. Freedom is kind of like anarchy. Liberty is responsibility.
Right.
So
Yep. It does. I try to talk about that more, and people their eyes glaze over, and they. But that's absolutely the challenge, right? So I really appreciate you, John, and I hope that if we're talking to younger guys who want to be instructors, the point of being handed that ball of being an instructor is not for you to repeat what you were taught for the next 30 years. It's for you to take that as a starting point and drive it forward, like advance that set of problems, and don't hoard it. This is not a gatekeeping exercise. This is a spread as far and wide as humanly possible. So
it's one thing. No, we haven't talked about it yet, but it's the lowest common denominator crap.
mm-hmm.
I think that's the biggest thing that annoys me about instructors. You got to teach the lowest common denominator. I've been told that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's frustrating.
Yeah.
But we don't need the lowest common denominator people in this job, people's lives and all. And they're not just lives, they're rights.
Mm-hmm.
All in our hands. And now some of those instructors are just using the wrong terminology. Someone like me, or saying teach lowest common denominator, but what they really mean is make it easily digestible.
Mm-hmm.
But they're all what truly believe teach the lowest common denominator. Taught these people over and over again. They're just not getting it. And like some people, you need to take a different approach. Some people take longer. And then the people who truly can't get it don't need to be here. And that's why I'm teach the lowest common denominator. Weed them out.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that is a comfort and ego combination. The lowest common denominator instructors are what's easiest for me, which again is a flag that you and I discussed earlier, that guy shouldn't be teaching anything. He's not interested in teaching. He has a resume box that he checked, and now he's forced to instruct it. So he does the minimum necessary to get the box checked for the state report that everybody can still be certified next year. You know what I mean? Instead of actually trying to drive the ball. And you and I serve the community by teaching our guys in addition to doing the job. It's a extra responsibility. It's not another benefit. You know what I mean? But I hear the lowest common denominator argument a lot. My guys are too stupid to do this. Number one, they're not. I guarantee you they have an above an 85 IQ. And as long as they have that, they can be taught anything. You're probably teaching it incorrectly, or you're not utilizing a teaching methodology to determine the individual skills they have to know in order to be able to understand the technique. And then they have to possess a competency of that technique in order for you to teach them and for them to retain the procedure. That's all the teacher's responsibility. It's not the student's responsibility. So
it's an insult to them too. And at the same time, like we have all these things we're expected to do in the real world as a cop.
mm-hmm.
So if you're not giving them the tools and the knowledge to go out there and do it, you don't need to be an instructor, because literally what you're giving them could either save or their life, somebody else's lives.
Right.
It's like, I don't understand the mindset behind that.
Well, I do. It's self-interest. They shouldn't be a cop, much less an instructor, because they make all decisions based on the prism of self-interest instead of what the whole point of being a cop and taking the oath that we do is that we put the needs of the Constitution and our community above of the needs of ourself in the small ways, mostly what's most comfortable for me as opposed to what's best for the agency and for the community that we serve. So I really appreciate you, John, very much.
Appreciate you.
Those are some great insights. Guys, you can follow us at TF70.org. This foundation only works through small monthly donations from guys like you guys watching. Every month we give away a bunch of free stuff, rifles to magazines to all kinds of different things. The only way to get entered to win automatically, though, is to join as a $20 a month donor. You can do that at tf70.org/donate. Until next week, we look forward to talking to you guys soon. Thank you.